Live. All right, so at 5:30, I will call our April 28th, not April, it is not April. Our June 23rd Historic District Commission meeting to order. And we'll start with roll call.
Nathaniel Johnson, Commissioner.
Liz Hamilton, Commissioner.
Jenny Davis, Commissioner.
Josh Hamilton, Vice Commissioner.
Corey Parks, Chair.
Jason Covington, Commissioner.
Now I can use my April 28th date. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the amended Historic District Commission April 28th minutes. Got a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So before we move to our agenda items, I do want to make a few modifications. So if y'all are okay with it, I would like for us to move to the, which is, I guess, 2 on the public hearing items. So we would do public hearing items, Old Conway Design Overlay District items first. And then we would move, basically swap 1 and 2. And then on 1, move the tree removal to the beginning. So then that way, the last thing that we have on the agenda is the 931 Faulkner Street. Okay. Okay. Are y'all okay with that? Okay. I don't know, do I need a motion? Okay, so I would entertain a motion that speaks to that.
I motion that we move number 1365 Bruce Street to the first item agenda, and then move the tree removal to the second, and move the Faulkner Street to the third.
There's a motion, is there a second?
You missed one.
There's a 611
611
Walnut.
would be
Okay.
number 2, and then the tree removal would be number 3.
What Liz said.
Okay,
Second to
Aye.
that.
yeah. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
So for those that are following along following along in the room or that are watching online, we're going to basically swap the public hearing items for Old Conway Design Overlay District, making those first, and then the public hearing items for Robinson Historic District will be second. But within the Robinson Historic District items, we will have tree removal at 2003 or 2003 and 2005 Caldwell as being the first item, because based on the public comments that we've received, I feel like the majority of the folks are likely here for 931 Faulkner Street. So just being respectful of everyone's time and streamlining that as much as we can. So with that, I will turn it over to Ann, because I think she's going to add some additional context based on some of the comments that we've had.
This is when I thought 931 was going to be first on the agenda. So I'm addressing the issue of 931 Faulkner. Based on some of the things that you were sent today, I want to speak to the commission and let you guys make a decision. One of the public comments was that they asked for that item to be pulled tonight. They questioned the process. I can tell you that the process was followed. Public notice was given in March, and at the March meeting, it was said that it would be taken back up at this meeting, so everybody was well aware. Mr. Salter took the additional step of posting signs on the property, which he was not required to do, but he did that. The thing that seems to be the sticking point is typically we issue the staff report on Friday. We send it out to all the commissioners and the applicants, and we post it on our website. A ticket was put in on Friday for that to go on the website, and for whatever reason, IT didn't get to that ticket, so it was not posted. We were not made aware of that until this afternoon by a resident here in town. We took immediate steps. It was posted at 2:05 today. Some people think that that's not enough notice. So I'm going to leave it up to the commission whether or not you want to hear that. Mr. Salter's here. Everybody's here. Procedures were followed. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys.
So Ann, just a clarifying question, is there a requirement to have that agenda posted online?
There is not in
Okay.
FOIA laws, not in state laws, not in our historic district bylaws. It's simply a courtesy.
Okay. Other questions for Ann while we have her before we discuss?
At the first time around, we had Mr. Salter present, but he was going to pull in his architect and maybe some other individuals who helped on the project. Are those individuals here as well?
Yes, they are. And some of them have come a great distance to be here.
Other questions? Okay. Anything else for us, Ann?
No, I just need to know if you're going to hear it or not.
What says the commission?
I think it would be a good idea to go ahead and hear from the individuals who have made it a point to be here.
I agree.
Okay, with that being said, in relation to this project, I would ask the commission to keep everybody on task. This is not the place, we're simply talking about the design of the thing, not processes, not city council, not planning commission, none of that thing. Okay? Thank you.
So with that, we'll move to public hearing item 1, or letter A for Old Conway Design Overlay District.
This project is at 1365 Bruce Street in the Old Conway Design Overlay District, the suburban zone. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 1,806 square foot single-family residence with a side porch and an attached garage, attached carport storage unit, also proposed as a driveway. The style of the proposed residence is reflective of a side-gabled craftsman residence. It meets the average front setback in the area, and all other setbacks are met. Generally speaking, this design proposal meets all of the guidelines found in the Old Conway Overlay District. The applicant has indicated a driveway off Bruce Street. It is concrete and appears to be 12 feet. It appears to be concrete and 12 feet wide. That is where parking will be accommodated as well as within the carport. The sidewalks are required for new construction. No sidewalk is proposed. And it is a residential collector street, which requires 5-foot sidewalks with 7 feet of green space. The applicant has indicated the removal of 1 canopy tree to accommodate the proposed carport. To adhere to the required tree to frontage ratio, it is recommended that an additional canopy tree be planted. It meets massing in terms of scale, height, width. The footprint is similar to that in the area. As I stated, it appears to be influenced by a craftsman-style home, which is found in the area. Other area structures are contemporary as well as mid-century. There's the side porch which meets the depth. There was no lighting shown on the site plan, but it must be downward and shrouded. The applicant is proposing fiber cement board, horizontal siding with a brick skirt, and therefore conforms to the requirements. And no HVAC is shown on the site plan, but it will need to be shielded from view. Conditions that could be conditions for consideration. The applicant must obtain all applicable building permits if when a certificate of appropriateness is granted. 1 tree from the approved tree species list shall be planted along the Bruce Street frontage outside of right-of-way. Driveway shall be concrete pavers, a ribbon or permeable paving. A ribbon driveway is encouraged. Prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy, a 5-foot sidewalk with 7 feet of green space shall be installed. Lighting shall be downward and inward toward the property. HVAC equipment shall be screened from public view. Demolition of the existing shed shall require a demolition permit. And prior to issuance of a certificate of appropriateness, the applicant shall provide staff with authorization of agent from Clawmere Holdings LLC. I noticed when I was putting this together that they weren't on the application. That's what's still shown as the ownership. So I wanted to throw that in there just to make sure. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Jason, if you can state your name and address.
My name is Jason Kornsmeyer. I live at 1805 Royal Drive here in Conway, Arkansas.
Any questions or comments on the proposed conditions?
No, sir. She
Okay.
covered it all.
Okay. So you fully understand, expect to be able to proceed as recommended?
Yes, just looking
Okay.
for approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from the commission? Oh, yep, sorry. Yes, thank you for keeping me on track. Anyone here to speak for or against this? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back into the. Yes, ma'am.
I think there was one.
Yeah, I don't remember on
Sent in.
The carport picture?
No, a picture of the tree that's going to be removed. It's one around the shed. That's not really a tree. That's just a lot of shrubbery. But the tree is more, I don't see it in any of those pictures. If you look to the left of that red car, I mean, you can kind of see
Yeah.
that one side of it there. But that's basically where the driveway will be. I'm not really sure. Pecan tree.
So just to clarify, anybody to speak here for or against this? Okay, we'll bring it back into the commission then. Thanks, Jason.
I move that we accept the recommendations of the planning department.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
I had a question first. I
Oh.
apologize.
so sorry.
No, I was trying to find the tree on my phone. Can you, who's driving? Can you go to the elevations? So just for clarification, I'm sorry to make you walk all the way back and forth. Just for clarification, is the front elevation has all these windows which faces Bruce Street, is that correct?
Correct.
But the door faces not Bruce Street.
Correct.
Is there a reason? Is that okay? Are we okay with that? The door doesn't face the.
I did not find it to be not in conformance with the standards. It met the transparency of having the 25% of the front facade being windows. It is worthy of discussion in terms of orientation, whether the commission finds that that is oriented in a similar fashion to the rest of the residences on the street.
Liz?
Well, I mean, because if the door faced the street, then you could take in just a bit of that covered porch. I don't know if you're trying to hit a certain square footage or something, but if you
We had
basically
talked
create a
about
little
taking one of
foyer-
those windows and actually making it a front door. But at this point, we're kind of going with what we see here. Thank you.
Are there questions, comments?
On the floor.
So there was a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, forgive me, I'm moving a little bit slower with all the papers that I have in front of me. There we are. Yeah. So we'll now move to new single-family residence at 611 Walnut Street.
Thank you. The 2B, the applicant did not meet the public notification requirement. They sent out the letters to the neighbors, but they were not sent out 15 days prior. For that reason, it was put on the agenda because I understood that neighbors would be anticipating it to be here. However, having not met that burden, there is a request for a continuance to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the HDC.
Does that require any action from us, or? Okay.
So motion for a continuance of 6 and Walnut.
Okay.
A
There's a-
second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll now move to public hearing item I, where we have letter B, tree removal at 2003 and 2005 Caldwell Street.
I have to get through my papers here too. This application is in the Robinson Historic District. It is zoned R2A, two-family district. The applicant is requesting to remove 2 significant trees, which are defined as trees that are 8 inches or over in diameter at breast height. The applicant's statement is, I had a large tree on my property hit by lightning a few days ago, and we need to take it down. There's also another tree that has grown into the foundation of the house, and I would like to take that one down at the same time if possible. And stated did not want to remove the trees, but is concerned about the safety of the property as well as the structural integrity of the residents. For the guidelines for tree preservation in the Robinson Historic District, the applicant needs to provide a site plan and/or photograph showing the location of significant trees, proof that the tree is dead or so badly diseased or damaged that it cannot be salvaged, such as a letter from a landscape firm, any other reasons for removal, species and size of tree that will be planted to replace it, as well as the location where it will be planted. If the tree is removed, the stump must be removed or ground to the surrounding surface level. Comments from staff, photographs showing the significant trees have been reviewed by staff. A letter from a landscape firm or an other professional was not provided. The photos provided show evidence of damage to the lightning-struck tree, which could threaten life, limb, or result in significant property damage. And likewise, the proximity of the healthy tree to the existing structure confirms that it could result in eventual property damage, which is why it is being proposed for removal. The conditions for consideration are 2 trees from the approved tree species list shall be planted to replace those removed. The replacement trees shall be planted outside of right-of-way and may be either canopy or understory. The stump must be removed or ground to the surrounding surface level. And that concludes the report.
Thank you. Is the applicant here to speak on behalf of this? If you'll state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Robbie Jones. My address is 1811 Irving Ridge Loop in Cabot. I'm the property manager and broker for Mr. K. Park because he lives in Texas. So that's why I'm here today.
Do you mind stating your street again, please?
1811 Irving Ridge, ERVING, Cabot.
And then any questions on the conditions that have been laid out?
They're not have to. The trees been.
Any questions from the commission for the applicant?
No questions for me.
Anyone here to speak for or against this? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back into the commission for discussion.
Move that we approve the recommendations of the Planning Commission.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So before we move to public hearing item Robinson Historic District, letter A, just want to remind folks of kind of the ground rules of what to expect. So we will have the presentation from Tara, from the staff report, and then from there, we will open it up to the applicant to give They'll have up to 10 minutes for themselves and anyone else that they may have to give a presentation for the project. And then following that, we will open it up to public comment, at which time you will have 3 minutes to speak. For each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. We will hold you accountable to that timeline. And so I believe we'll have a timer somewhere. Yep. So you'll hear the ding. And so at that time, we just appreciate you being respectful of everyone and ceasing your comments. If there are a group of you, we would ask that maybe kind of having a spokesperson ideally, but we do want to allow everyone the opportunity to speak that wants to speak, but that will be limited to 3 minutes. And then outside of that, any comment should be to the commission, not to the applicant. And it shouldn't be to any single commissioner. It should be just to the commission as a whole. And then as far as what we're discussing, the planning director mentioned this in the opening, but we are not discussing the types of residents that might live at this project. We're not talking about socioeconomic status. We're not discussing processes and procedures that may or may not have occurred outside of this body. We are deciding if the design is appropriate for the proposed zoning. And so with that, Brent, if you wait, no, actually, sorry. I laid out the process and then forgot my own process. I'm sorry. Tara, please.
Thank you. The project is at 931 Faulkner Street. It was heard at the April 28th Historic District meeting and tabled at that meeting to allow the applicant to provide more information regarding how the new construction will tie into existing development. Commissioners voted to continue the project to the June 23rd HDC meeting. In the report, changes and updates are indicated through underlined text for additions and strike-throughs for deletions. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly, considering a lot of this report is the same that was presented at that April 28th meeting. The applicant is proposing to renovate an existing multifamily structure that is a contributing structure in the Robinson Historic District, as well as construct a new multifamily residence. The total amount of units on this 6.3 acre site for a C1 district, in the C1 district, is 15 units. The C1 district allows for 100% lot coverage, as well as there are no required setbacks. The applicant is proposing to construct a parking lot, as well as a driveway access. The applicant will be replacing windows as well as siding on the existing multifamily structure and will be repairing the existing brick. In the original staff report, I had recommended that the shutters be removed just based upon the guidelines for the Robinson Historic District, in that non-operable shutters are discouraged. The applicant indicated, based upon their consultation with a historic design expert and architect, that the shutters should remain as they were existing at the time of the structure being categorized as contributing. To remove them could jeopardize the contributing status. The applicant had also mentioned this during the April 28th meeting. For the new construction, it is proposed as a 3-story structure, and it will be 8 feet higher than the existing multifamily structure to the south. So we have a multifamily structure to the south of it, as well as the one that is on the applicant's property. Another change was during the April 28th meeting, I had spoken about the way in which the design and making some recommendations for additional design attributes around the window, and as well as that facing Faulkner Street. The applicant provided a letter from an architect that disagreed with that. And so I did remove some of the language regarding this. This is, of course, something for the Historic District Commission to analyze and consider. One of the changes being, it is the project architect's assertion that the simplicity of the eastern and southern facade are integral to the style and embellishments not necessary. Staff does not find this claim to be in conflict with the regulations or guidelines. As stated, there are no setback requirements for C1. There's, just for a side note, for site development review, which is a process that comes after historic design review, and it is internal to staff, there is a requirement for a 20-foot buffer between commercial and residential districts and structures. So keep that in mind, that although the C1 does not have that setback, there is a residential setback for site development review. And then their lot coverage in C1, you have 80 to 100% in commercial areas. The applicant is not utilizing 100% of the site. Conditions for consideration. The applicant must obtain all applicable building permits if when a certificate of appropriateness is granted. HVAC units and other utility equipment shall be screened from the public right-of-way. Okay, there we go. HVAC units and other utility equipment shall be screened from the public right-of-way through their positioning in relation to other structures, architectural screening, or through vegetative cover. Driveway and parking shall be composed of brick, stone, pavers, or concrete. Asphalt is not permitted. Masonry shall be cleaned with gentlest means. Water blasting is not permitted. The brick shall not be painted. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall provide planning staff with verification that the National Park Service has approved the window replacement and the siding replacement on the existing structure. One of the strike-throughs from the previous April meeting was number 6. If shutters are to remain, they shall be replaced with a functional equivalent size to fit the windows. I have proposed striking that one. I have proposed striking number 7, which dealt with new elevations to mitigate, add more embellishments. I have proposed striking that one, as well as the courtyard entrance details. And the reasoning for that is, will you go to the rendering? Yes. So this is what the applicant, this is since the April 28th meeting, this is what the applicant has provided. If this is sufficient, considered sufficient by the Historic District Commission to meet that additional, or excuse me, the courtyard entrance details, then we do not need, I would propose that that condition is not necessary. Number 8, roofing shall be asphalt or composition type shingles. Siding on the new construction shall be composed of brick and a wood or wood-like material. A minimum of 5 trees from the approved species list must be planted along Faulkner Street out of right-of-way. The existing sidewalks shall be repaired and meet ADA standards. Lighting shall be inward, downward, and shrouded to stay within the bounds of the property. The applicant shall coordinate with Department of Transportation for a driveway permit. The project shall undergo site development review prior to building permit issuance. The property shall be replatted prior to or concurrently with site development review, and the existing driveway shall be removed. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Brent, if you want to speak to the application. And just a reminder to state your name and address for the record for us, please.
Yeah, Brent Salter, 201 Lee Andrew Lane in Conway.
One thing that I would like to point out is on the conditions number 5. Last meeting, we had discussed this reading prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy versus building permit because of all of those things that we discussed last time. And so I've talked about this project a lot. And from the last time we were here, there was conversation about the scale, all right? So if we look at, existing structure, it's going to be redone in its current form, right? I'm not even going to talk about that. We've been talking about that. The only point of contingent was basically the height of the new structure. And so that's why the request was made for the rendering. That's what was provided. Can we put that back up there, please? So it is a 3-story building, right? There's no way around it. It is a 3-story structure. It's 8 foot taller than the adjacent structure. If you look at the house to the right of the 2-story, this 2-story is more than 8 foot in height. So having a structure that is more than 8 foot in height next to another structure in the historic district is commonplace. You can drive around. The real question is the scale of this building appropriate in between these 2 buildings, right? And so, yeah, I have Rob Sharp here with me. He's the architect. He'll say he isn't, but I will consider him an expert in the field of new urbanism and in designing historic structures in historic neighborhoods. And I mean, I'm sorry, in my opinion, this thing's beautiful. If it would have been sitting here for 100 years, it fits. In my opinion, I think it's beautiful. I think Rob has done a tremendous job taking into account the context of the neighborhood, the context of the site, and applying in such a way where there is a building that is harmonious with the neighborhood and with the 2 structures next to it. It also creates a courtyard to service the experience of place in downtown Conway and increase walkability. So I feel like this is appropriate for all those reasons, and I think it's beautiful. So I hope you guys feel the same way, but I'm going to turn it over to Rob now. Thanks.
So just real quick before Rob, you can make your way up here. But just for the folks that are in the room and watching, Brent, this is to scale, right? This is what it would be built to. Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you. Rob, if you'll give your name and address for us, please.
Name is Rob Sharp. My address is 712 South College Avenue in Fayetteville, Arkansas. My practice is I do a lot of work in existing downtowns, mostly in Fayetteville, Bentonville, and Rogers, which I know is different from this area, but there's a lot of similarities. I live in a neighborhood very much like this. As Brent said, if this building, had been built in the 1920s, and we were proposing tearing it down, I hope we'd have this many people coming to protest, losing this building. I think what's charming about a neighborhood like this is that there is a variety of heights and size and building widths and building heights and building styles. And when we were first looking at this, we didn't want to match the red brick building on the left. We didn't want to match the existing, this historic building that needs all the love on the right. We wanted it to be distinct. We didn't want to exactly match the height of the 2 buildings. We wanted it to be some variety there. Also, we knew that we wanted the house to be wheelchair accessible, so we made the ground floor low. The other 2 buildings, they're up about 3 or 4 feet, so they sit higher up already. And so our building, even though it is taller, it starts from a lower position. We also wanted to do porches and gardens for good outdoor living space, because usually in a neighborhood like this, it's the landscaping and those things that really help the buildings. That adds to their charm. And I don't know if there's a way to zoom in on the white building in the middle, if we can. One thing we work really hard on, if you'll see the freeze boards and the rake boards and the handrails and the trim around the window where the brick, we don't take the brick and just take it right up to the window. We have a piece of trim around it that has a profile. The door, the blue door, we've got, that all has classical detailing. And the reason we do this, a lot of people get the basic shape of the house right, but they never go in and get the actual details right, so that actually has that human scale. And so what you're getting, it's not going to be like a bad copy of an old building. It'll be something that has all the integrity and spirit of those old buildings. Some of the comments were related just in landscaping. I think a lot of difference between a successful and unsuccessful project is just to have more landscaping. We're proposing some foundation plantings there and window boxes, and that could apply to the houses on either side as well, just to add to more landscaping there. I don't want to use all the 10 minutes talking about our project, because I know there's a lot of people here to have thoughts and ideas and questions. And I'm hoping that after people talk, that you'll call on me and Brent to answer some of those questions or address any of those questions. So I don't want to use too much time now. Just do know that it was an honor to get to work on this project. We're happy with the result, and I think, I think the rendering does a good job of showing what it would be like, but I wish we could just build it and, live with it for a year, and I think people would really love it. And I hope some people are here to say that, but we'll find out. All right. Thank you.
Questions you'll have for the applicant before we open it up?
Can I just say, can we make sure that commissioners speak into the mic? It's been a little hard to hear. My mic hasn't been working so well, but we can do our best. Thank you.
Questions? Okay. Well, at this time, we'll open it up for public comment. Anyone to speak for or against. And just a reminder, you will have 3 minutes. There will be a timer that goes off, and so just please be respectful of that timer. No, that's if it's a pre-approved presentation. Yeah, well, I double-checked the rules today, and it says 10 minutes for a pre-approved application. Otherwise, it's 3 minutes.
I'm Pam Rollins, 615 Watkins Street. Good evening. I've recently moved to this address. Prior to that, I lived at 933 Faulkner Street, which is right next door to that property. I lived there for 10 years. I have some concerns. One is height. There are no 3-story structures within the Robinson Historic District, and I maintain it should stay that way. The proposed apartment building is 9 feet 5 inches taller than the structure on the south, 8 feet 5 inches taller than the structure on the lot. In other words, it will stick up noticeably. Allowing a 3-story structure within the district will set a precedent. If you allow this, there will be, at some point, another similar request. What's to stop Mr. Strange from requesting a 3-story apartment building or something taller at 915 Faulkner? Do you really want to rehash this in the future? And you can prevent that by denying this proposal. My second concern is appearance. Concerns about height are secondary to concerns about appearance. Your literature states that one reason for the historic district is to encourage the compatibility of new buildings with existing buildings within the district. The historic district is often displayed when the city is promoting itself. Overall, the district is charming and graceful, aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Many of the houses are stately and elegant. None of those words apply to this building. This apartment building is ugly. It looks like a cheap hotel beside an interstate in the less than prosperous part of town. Can you say Motel 6? Nothing about this is complimentary or cohesive or vernacularly appropriate to the flavor of the district. Nothing. If it were 2 stories, it would still be ugly. If it were 1 story, yep, still ugly. Compatible means consistent or congruent or in tune with. I urge you to uphold the integrity of the district. New buildings must be compatible with the existing buildings, as you have previously stated. My next concern is parking and traffic. The rental units are referred to as both studio units and one-bedroom apartments. They're not the same, but either way, that does not mean single occupancy. Nor does that mean that each unit will have one vehicle. Mr. Salter is allowed up to 15 rental units, and he is providing 17 off-street parking slots. If more than 2 units have more than one vehicle, there will be vehicles parked on the street. It is quite likely that tenants will be a mix of singles, couples, students, roommates, and
Thank you.
parent-child combinations. I respectfully request to continue.
We, out of respect for the rest of the folks that are here, we're going to honor the 3 minutes.
My name is Christy
One
Fruit.
second,
Oh,
ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Sorry, I was just clarifying if we needed to alternate between people for or against. And so what we'll do is the people that are against first, and then following that, we'll go with the people that are for. I apologize for adjusting that based off of previous meetings. So if you'll state your name
Yes.
and address for us, please, for the record.
Yes, my name is Christy Fruits, 12 East Walker Road, Conway, Arkansas.
On spelling your last name.
Yes, fruits like apples and oranges.
Okay, got it. Can you say your street number again, please?
12 East Walker Road,
Okay.
Conway.
Thank you.
I'm actually going to take over Pam right here, but I also want to say I'm the owner of K2K Salon, which is right across the street from that building. I have off-street parking. I've been there for 10 years. I have 3 stylists, and we're busy. And my concern is parking, let alone, I agree, I'm from New Orleans, so I know the downtown historical stuff doesn't look like that. That's my opinion. But yes, my concern, big concern, parking. Single business owner, it's going to impact me. That's my concern. But I'm going to take over what Pam has, and then y'all can ding me when my time's up. Let us review the parking situation on the street as it currently is. Although Hardwood, Ott, Fisher all have off-street parking, there are 2 white pickups associated with that business that park on Faulkner Street, which is true. Sometimes they park on the same side of the street, and sometimes they park on the opposite side of the street, creating a bottleneck at the south end of the block. 915 Faulkner is a 4-plex apartment building with 1 unit being an Airbnb. Each unit is allowed 1 parking slot on the property. All additional vehicles park on the street. 933 Faulkner is a residence which has a driveway for the owner. Her roommates park on the street. 936, that's me, K2K Salon, has driveway for the owner. The other stylists and clients park on the street. It is usual to have 5 to 8 vehicles parked along the street during regular business hours. I'm out of there, we usually are out of there around 5, 6 o'clock at night. And again, big concern of mine is parking. So, let's see. There are a lot of cars that already park on the street. Adding more just compounds the problem. The street is not a wide street. I agree with that. Trash cans. We want to know if there's going to be individual trash containers, if there's going to be dumpsters. I know on trash pickup day, we already line them up, so I can just imagine if that's going to be an issue there. It's just a question. So I'm concerned about that too. How much time do I have left?
That's a wonderful question. I'm not tracking the time. How long? 5 seconds.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up then, and we'll pass it on.
Yeah. So just a reminder for the commission and the folks that are here to speak. I'm sorry, I got distracted. The purpose of this body is to determine if the design is appropriate or not. And so as for trash and parking and some of that, that would be addressed from my understanding in the site development review process. But just for anyone that was not at the last meeting, there is not a requirement for this development to have off-street parking, but they are dedicating some of their property to provide off-street parking. So just to add that note, because I said it at the last meeting. But if there are any others to speak against, just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes.
20 Center Street, my property backs up to this property.
Dan, hold on one second. Did you get that? Jenny?
20 Center Street?
920.
920, thank you.
Okay.
I expressed my views last time about it being too tall, and I would like to point out that that tree is nicely placed to where you can't tell, but about the back third, it's not seen right now. It's not like that's the full building, but the other thing I was going to say, I know at the end of the meeting last time, y'all were concerned that this is something that, you know, if it didn't work out as planned, it was just going to go, you know, back to the one house and that would be it. I think Salter is reasonable enough and we're reasonable enough, the people who are most affected, that if there is a, you know, the only thing is the third floor gets, you know, taken out or whatever, we can come up with something. We can tweak stuff here and there. Most of us are in favor of a project there. We're just not in favor of this particular project at this particular height. Thank you all.
Thank you. If you'll state your name and address for us, please.
My name is Victoria Allen, 1703 Prince. I'm taking over for Pam Rollins. She started talking about trash cans. There will be up to 15 green trash can containers to be placed somewhere on trash pickup day. I have reviewed this with Katie McGinty at Conway Sanitation Department. The city will not pick up containers that are placed under power lines. This excludes the sidewalk and the grassy strip between the sidewalk and the street from being available locations for trash can placement. For this property, she recommends the trash cans be placed in the street. Also, the sanitation department requires 3 feet of space between each trash can. Each can is 29 inches wide. Doing the math, 81 feet of street frontage will be required for those trash cans. Street frontage of this lot is about 195 feet, meaning that about half of the frontage would be occupied by trash cans. Inevitably, someone will block a trash can with a vehicle. Potentially, this would be twice a week, as recycle pickup occurs on a different day than landfill pickup. The street is going to be overflowing with vehicles and trash cans. Is this acceptable for the historical district? Water runoff. The current structure on the lot occupies about 10% of the property, which means that 90% is available for water infiltration. Mr. Salter has stated that he will not cover more than 80% of the lot. Under his proposal, 20% of the lot will be available for water infiltration. In light of the city's stormwater drainage issues, particularly downtown, serious consideration should be given to where the excess water will go and can the city's drainage system handle more runoff. 931 Faulkner does not flood as it is on the high side of the street. Everything on the opposite side floods with heavy downpour. A few years ago, the house at 934 Faulkner was demolished due to flooding. It often had standing water inside. The house at 940 Faulkner places sandbags at their doors to prevent water from entering. The backyards of these two lots, as well as the K2K salon, often have standing water for days after a heavy downpour. Water runoff must be evaluated before this proposal can be approved. This is Pam Rollins' conclusion. To be sure, the current structure is badly in need of repairs, but to accept this proposal is to trade one eyesore for another. Additionally, the plethora of vehicles and trash cans will be a degradation of the Robinson Historical District. Throw in the concerns about water drainage, and you can see how this proposal is unacceptable. Please vote no.
Thank you. And so just a reminder again for folks, we are considering if the design is appropriate. And there's a delicate line that we have to be mindful of on personal preference versus what is appropriate. And so that's just want to throw that out there. But then also, given the number of people that are here, I would ask that future speakers make their comments as best they can, specific to the matter that we're considering. Because as I mentioned previously, a lot of like the sanitation and the drainage and all of that would be addressed in site development review, which would happen after it's determined if the design is appropriate or not for this specific property. If you'll state your name and address for us, please.
Garrett Ferry, 1703 Prince Street. I'm going to make it really short and sweet. I don't feel this is congruent with the look and feel of the neighborhood. Mr. Salter made an indication that the property to the south is a two-story building, and the property the property in question, the existing property, is a two-story building. That doesn't mean that a three-story building is appropriate in between those two, because the properties to the west are single-family residences that aren't 3 stories. They're not even 2 stories. So it doesn't match the look and feel of the current neighborhood. When we're comparing just a property to the south and the existing dwelling on the property, I don't think that is a fair comparison. So I ask the committee that you vote no on this and not approve this design. I am not against the development of this property. The existing structure is currently an eyesore. I am not against additional housing within the downtown district, but I don't feel that 3 stories is justified. I don't feel that this drawing is even to scale unless the first floor is going to be subgrade, below grade. I can't see how that is to scale. It just doesn't make sense to me. And the measurement is to the middle of the roof line, not the peak of the roof. So the 8.5-foot claim, I don't feel is valid because you're measuring to the middle grade of the roof line and not the peak of the roof. So I just don't feel it matches the look and feel of historic Conway. Thank you.
Anyone else to speak against?
My name is Beth Horton Zinn. I live at 2006 Robinson Avenue. If we're here to think,
You mind spelling your last name, please?
Z is in zebra,
Okay,
INN.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. If we're here to just discuss if the design is appropriate, it's not. I mean, it's just common sense. It's not horrible looking, but it really is kind of a motel-y looking thing. If we set a precedent for this type thing in the historical district, it won't stop. And we're just flapping our gums here with y'all because he has tried this on Robinson Avenue and it was rejected. I have no doubt if this passes, he'll come back with the Robinson property. This is just the beginning. This is the historical district. There were some rules set in the beginning. If those were wrong, they should be addressed, not changed right now. I know that he thinks this is lovely, but he has no taste. Maybe it's all in his mouth. Okay?
So just again, a reminder, if you can make comments all specific to the project and any comments be directed at the commission and not the applicant.
Before my time starts, is there a way to pull that overhead map up? I think so. I can't see real well. Okay, so, no, this is fine. So my name is Bishop Woosley. My address is 5430 Lost Canyon. I'm the owner of the property that is just above the yellow box. Right to the side of that will be the 17 spaces. I don't think you can consider whether the design is appropriate and then separate out parking. You're building a 17-unit apartment complex, which requires more parking. The two go together. I would urge all of you, before you make a vote, to get in your cars and drive down there. See for yourself whether or not there's room for 17 more families and 17 to probably 34 more cars on that street. My house and my daughter's driveway is butted right up against where that parking lot will be. I understand that, they use the word quaint and beautiful, We bought the house in December 23 because it was a quaint neighborhood. It was a beautiful neighborhood. Adding 17 families within that one lot right there will not make it a beautiful neighborhood. The design is flawed. It's bad. Find another apartment complex like this in this district that will have 17 parking spaces and 17 families, and tell me whether or not that's appropriate. So before you vote on this, I would urge you to drive down that street, determine whether or not 20, 25, 30 more cars is appropriate, because parking is part of the design. It counts,
And
okay?
can we pause on his time? So just to clarify, it's not that that isn't part of our consideration. So for instance, we think about screening of HVAC and trash receptacles and those types of things. But as to the level of detail of, will a trash truck be able to lift this under a power line or some of those specifics, that's not under the purview of this body.
Okay, understand. Well, what I would say again is it doesn't matter if it's quaint, it doesn't matter if it's beautiful. If you build a 3-story complex, you're looking down into people's windows. You're looking down on people's houses. And if you want to know where this goes, I lived in the Heights in the 90s. It was quaint then, and it was a historic district. Go to the Heights before you vote. Tell me what it looks like now. There's a bunch of monolithic 3-story houses that literally look down into people's backyards and look down into their windows. This is where that'll go. It's inappropriate. The design is inappropriate for here. I want that house to be torn down. There were bums living in it. My daughter lives next door. I want something to be done. I've known the Salters for years. I have no issue with them. But this design is not appropriate for this area. Ask yourself, would you want to live next to it? Do you think it would be appropriate if you bought that house that I bought? No. Simple. If it was appropriate, why are there so many people here opposed to it? Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi,
Name and address, please.
Emily Walter, 940 Center Street. I'm not going to waste my time talking about points that have already been discussed, but I do want to remind you, as I served up on HDC for 6 years and was the chair, how important it is to keep our neighborhood looking historic. And the purpose of HDC is to make sure that when people are coming into town or moving here and you drive through our historic district, HDC is here to preserve the look of our historic district. And I know that you know that, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I'm trying to remind everybody. And if you can scroll up on that map so I can see toward Locust and Caldwell, there is an apartment complex down here in our district, but it is a 2-story apartment complex, and all the parking is in the back, and you can't see it. And that was appropriate to the size of the lot. This is completely not. I mean, we keep hearing the words appropriate all night long. But if you were to drive down Faulkner Street, once this is built, it will be a complete eyesore. I mean, you will be able to tell what's new versus what's historic. And that's what we pride ourselves on in the historic district, is that our goal is to make sure that our district looks like it did the day it was built. Now, really fast, because I think I'm talking too much, but in Section 7 of your Historic District Commission standards, it does state commission powers, so powers that you guys have. If I was hoping y'all had done your due diligence and went back and listened to planning commission meetings and things like that, because we fought for this at planning commission, we fought for this at city council, and they kept saying HDC is going to stop it if it's not appropriate. Well, you have the right to push it back on planning commission. So on Section 7, number K, it says your power is to periodically review the Conway zoning ordinance and recommend to the planning commission and city council any amendments appropriate for the protection and continued use of property within the historic district. Letter L states review and make recommendations to the planning commission on all conditional uses, rezonings, variances that affect properties. So while we as our neighbors have been fighting for this for 15 months, Planning Commission and City Council put it in your hands, and it's time to reverse that and put it back in their hands, and you have the authority to do that with your standards. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
So in regards to that portion of the standards that was brought up when this went through the Planning Commission, And although that is written in the standards, unfortunately, that is a portion of our standards that conflicts with state law. The Historic District Commission does not have the ability or the legal authority to send something that has gone through Planning Commission and City Council as a rezone back to Planning Commission. It is my understanding that it's more of the Historic District Commission has some oversight in terms of like recommendations, but not actual zoning authority. So I acknowledge that is a discrepancy.
Since I have a little bit of time left, I will just say that's great. I just would recommend that be taken out because that's misleading for the public, number one. And then number two, I'm going to say the word appropriate 8,000 more times than we're going to hear it tonight. But clearly, like the last guy said, if it was appropriate, we wouldn't have this many people fighting back against this building. That's all. Thank you.
State your name and address for us, please.
Marion Black. I live at 1146 Davis Street. Thank you all for the work that you're doing. It's always great to see how seriously you take it. I'm just going to quote to you from some of the Conway Historic District guidelines that are on the website. I went through and I researched a few things today, so I just want to remind you of these things. Section 2.2.1, Features Guidelines, Item 18. New work should be compatible with the historic character of the setting in terms of size, scale, design, material, color, and texture. In the overview for new construction, the paragraph states, new construction should not challenge or compete with the physical character of the district. New construction should blend into the neighborhood fabric and not draw attention to itself at the expense of the historic neighbors. In section 2.5.1, new construction shall maintain, not disrupt, the existing pattern of surrounding historic buildings along the street by being similar in the following: size or mass, form, proportion, scale, which is height and width, roof change and pitch, orientation to the street, location, proportion, scale of the windows and entrances, foundation, first floor height and ratio, floor to ceiling height, materials, lot placement, setbacks, etc. I think given the guidelines that are published and are out there as a resource to contractors, citizens like ourselves, this is an educational piece that we should all be paying attention to. I would say that this is not appropriate for the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes, I was waiting. Sorry. I was stopping because it looked like you may be stretching your legs. Couldn't tell. I was like. You'll state your name and address for us, please.
I'm Vivian Lawson Hogue, 1723 College Avenue. I, for 6 years, wrote house histories of the old houses, the historic houses in town. And I got to go in all of those. I saw what beauty was. And when I look at what is proposed here, it's like watching the Rockettes and there's one girl that's not standing in the right place. And and she's going to be looking for work the next day. But if is a big word. If you're talking about things that if it were there back then, it would be considered beautiful today. And I'm not sure I agree with that. The problem is it was not there all along. It reminds me of years ago when the city decided to let people move houses into whatever it would fit into. And those houses would have to be put in sideways, and you can spot them anywhere in town. I would request that you not let this go on. It's just not going to help us. Thank you.
Anyone here to speak on behalf of? Oh, okay.
I'm Bob Cantrell,
I live at 44 Downwind Avenue in Greenbrier, and I own the property at 930 Faulkner Street directly across.
Go a little slower, please, on your address.
Okay, it's 44 Downwind, just like it sounds. It's on an airport.
Thank you.
Okay, I know this doesn't directly come under your rulemaking, but I think the front elevation of this property should show a permanent row of vehicles on the street, because that's what's going to happen, because there's no accountability for visitors. With only 17 parking places, that's going to impact the neighborhood. So there is already in front of my property a line of cars most days. So you add this amount to it. I just feel like this is too many people to put in this small area and not impact a historical district of Conway. So if there were less quantity, I think that would really solve some of this problem. So anyway, I know it's not the historical, but that quantity of people is going to address the atmosphere around the historical property. So anyway, thank you. Don't envy your job.
So with that, unless there's one more, I would like to open it up for anyone who's speaking for, unless there's, okay. So anyone speaking on behalf of the application? So then, Brent, I would ask you and Rob, maybe if you can speak to some of the questions that were raised. So then that way we have the ability to kind of consider both sides of it.
So I was taking some notes. Concerns, stormwater drainage, that's addressed through site plan development review. Trash, that'll be worked out with the sanitation department. Parking in the landscape towards Prince Street. And so, yeah, so in C1, I'm not required to construct any parking. We just felt like it was the right thing to do. Again, that's a step that we are trying to make to make the development better, to make the street better, to try to minimize the number of cars that are parked on the street. But ultimately, with this zoning, we're not required to provide any. And then, like you said, all of the parking will be screened appropriately per city ordinance. And then all of the lighting related to the site and the parking, that is all governed by city ordinance related to no light shed and screening of all parking. So those are already rules that I must abide by. Appearance, I'll let Rob speak to that, but he has been here. He has seen all the different types of architecture that there is in the historic district, and based on that, he feels and we feel that it is appropriate, considering there are so many different types of architecture in the district. The 3-story deal, right? It is a 3-story structure, but I would pose the question of, what if there was only 2 stories in this building, but it was the exact same height? What if it had 15-foot ground floor and 12-foot upper floors, and it's only 2-story? Are we even having this conversation? This is about the scale and the massing of the structure itself. And yes, there are 3 stories in this, but it's about the overall design and context of the structure, not necessarily about how many floors are within the building. So I would just like to make those comments based on some other things. And then, Rob, I'll let you speak to the actual.
It was beneficial to hear everybody's comments and thoughts about the project. It's clearly an area that people love and care about. The positives that I'll take away from the comments is that there was a real sense that this building is very simple and very plain. It's not flashy. It doesn't have a lot of elaborate details. A lot of the tall buildings in that neighborhood are Victorian, and they have turrets and dormers and things. So the tall buildings are more expressive, and that's what people are used to, and I understand that. Our thought in our office when we looked at it was that it's not adding more decoration and ornament and stuff to this to make it look fancier and make it look more maybe elegant or more like the Victorian houses, we thought would be a mistake. We think that actually, because it is it is a simple building, it will be more accepted. It will blend into the landscape better. We did not go as far as to make it look like a Motel 6. If you would compare us to the Motel 6, that the Motel 6 doesn't have the classical details or the ornament or the proportions, because that's where we start and stop with a project like this, is we first of all try to get a well-composed facade, because that's what people are going to see. As they walk down the street, what they're going to see is the facade. And one of the reasons we really want a 3-story building is because it has a tall, elegant facade instead of sort of a squatty facade. Like we could make this shorter, we could make it exactly as high as everything around it, but it would actually, in my opinion, make it look less attractive. It would look more utilitarian. And so the height that people are concerned about, I think would end up, if we could squash it all down and get 3 stories, but it's still 8 foot less, which we could do with a flat roof or a low pitched roof or something, I think it would look worse. And so it's hard to hear that people don't like the design, but that's their opinion. It's their neighborhood and they love it. Do know that we did the best we could to make it look like something that really meets your standards. I mean, it's not exactly the same height as everything around it. It doesn't exactly match everything around it. But I think in a neighborhood like this, it has the appropriate level of diversity of height and ornament and color. Again, we didn't want it to match the houses on either side. We wanted it to be distinct. And so we hope that we've given you everything you need to make a decision. But if you have more questions, we're certainly here to answer them. Thanks.
No, not yet, but so I'm trying to clarify, because earlier when we discussed it, it was a matter of for and against, so that way it was kind of in line instead of be. Okay. Okay. Is it for or against? Yeah, that's fine. If you'll state your name and address, please.
I'm Margaret West, and I live at 920 Center Street. I live and garden right behind this house. And I would just like for you all to think about how you live in and around your home. And what do you do in your backyard? You eat outside, you have company over. Excuse me. You're playing with your kids and your grandkids, and you're gardening and all those things. And how would you like doing that with a 3-story building right here? You've got all these windows looking right down into your yard. I just would like for you to think about that. You out there, your children and grandchildren out there, with people just looking straight down onto them. Think about it. Is this something that you would want behind your house?
So with that, unless there's anyone else to speak for, we'll close the public comment period. Okay. It's now back into the commission. Questions, comments, thoughts? Do y'all have?
I'm just chewing on it a little bit. There was a lot that was said before and against.
There's not another 3-story building in the downtown district. Many of the things that we deal with are complex. They're not black and white, they're very subtle. I thought before I even knew people were unhappy or happy with it, in April, I guess, when we had our meeting, I drove by and, we turned down, the composition of this committee was different, but I remember we told a gentleman he couldn't have a barbecue shack in his backyard because of the pitch of his roof. Because the pitch of his roof was not consistent with the roofs around it. And his dad had given him money, and he'd already started building some of it. And it broke my heart to tell him no, but it did, because it wasn't consistent with the rest of the architecture. Just, I feel like a lot has been said, but our job is to stick by the rules that have been given by the committee. Now, I'm usually, whatever the property owner can do, I think we should make that happen. But in this case, it is so inconsistent with the character of the other buildings. It's not third story like, it's a third story. And that is not consistent with the other buildings, is not consistent with the way I voted in the past. If I were to vote yes for this, that wouldn't be consistent with the way I voted other times on roofline issues and story issues like this. And so for me, that's the concern. That's the only thing that I'm voting on. So it would be no, because it's 3 stories.
Other comments?
Not, nowhere in the regulations does it say we're not allowed to approve a 3-story building, correct?
Correct.
It's just a matter of if it's appropriate or if it conforms.
It's the way the language is when it comes to height is scale with the neighborhood.
Well, and that's where I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm about to, because I think that we have one professional, at least in the room, that has spoke to the scale and that it is appropriate. So I think if you could help the non-technical folks like myself, can you speak to scale and how it relates to the surrounding buildings?
Do you mind putting up the rendering once again? And I appreciate you guys preparing the rendering so that.
Can you speak a little bit closer in? Sorry, Liz.
Excuse me, I
Thank you.
apologize. I appreciate you guys putting the rendering together so that we can all kind of visualize what it looks like. And I wanted to point out also, which I'm glad you touched on initially, is that on the red brick house, you can see the little, the crawl space vents that are happening underneath the windows. And that is an illustration of how much higher the first floor is on the red brick than we're seeing on the new building here. And so they're being responsive not only to modern requirements and standards for, the ADA constructability of this facility and this building. And honestly, if we just, I don't want to speak to you for you guys, but if you scrap this entire building, I don't know if the units that would you be able to provide ADA units in the existing structure? So it wouldn't conform. So you're providing your ADA units in the new one to house these folks here in the neighborhood. And I feel like that would be an inclusionary measure that I think might weigh into consideration or maybe worth considering when we're talking about historic neighborhood constructability. I think, in my opinion, I think the scale is fine. I think the variety of scale in a historic district is what makes it rich and what makes it diverse. 8 or 9 feet seems like a lot when we're sitting here looking at it, but when you're walking down the street, I don't know if you're ever gonna. We will see it because we've heard the conversations and all the variety of passionate neighbors speaking in opposition to it. But I think, from my standpoint as an architect, I appreciate the endeavor that's been had at this point to make sure that they are designing something that's not only responsive to the neighborhood in terms of trying to save the existing structure and salvage what they have in the existing fabric, but also provide something that will be, I think, an asset in the future. It hurts right now, but I think long-term, I think this is what this kind of, I don't want to say this is what this area needs, but this is what Conway needs, is they need brave people to go out and do things like this.
Other comments?
Um, I think the Salters would do a good job with their project and take care of it. I've got problems with putting more eyeballs on the people in the backsides, backyards, though. If I lived back there, I wouldn't want to see it up higher.
Is there any landscaping that's being considered? You said, Tara, you had a 20-foot buffer, right? That the site development review is going to require, and that's on all sides of the property? Remind me.
So it would be, the landscaping would be required for the parking area. So that would be with the residential property to the north. And then you also have the rear, which would be a 20-foot buffer. It looks based upon the site plan provided that it's about 30 feet, which is what's currently proposed. And then when you are adjacent to the commercial property, there is, because there's no setback, then there isn't that buffer. And yes, there is perimeter landscaping that is required in terms of trees, a canopy tree every 30 feet, or an understory tree, one every 15 feet. So that would be required around the perimeter of the property.
I did drive by several times since April and did again this morning, and I was interested to see what kind of tree cover we have between the properties on the west side and the property that border this. And maybe y'all can speak to that a little bit, if there is any consideration to additional plantings along the west. How high those trees are, I didn't.
So there's actually a page that shows the existing trees and which ones are proposed to be removed in the submission. And you can see there already is a cluster of trees back along that west property line. And then, yes, city has ordinance that would require some additional. If it was made a condition that we did twice the required amount, we would be willing to accept that.
So all the gray trees up there in the top left corner, all those are existing trees?
The green is existing.
New green is existing.
Yes. Yeah, there used to be a structure back there when we first purchased the property, but yeah, considering the type of people that we found trying to live in there, we got rid of the structure. So, but yes, no, adding landscaping to that area to address some of these neighbors' concerns, absolutely. If it could be quantified and if the number is double the city requirement, then that's fine, and we'll do it tastefully with the intent of, providing privacy.
One thing I'd add is that if you could zoom in on the number, we're certainly sensitive to abutting neighbors. There's almost 52 feet between the back of our house and the adjoining property to the east or the north. Is that the northeast? The
west.
Okay, the west. Sorry, yeah, to the west. And so I think in terms of sun angles and things like that, it's not going to cast a shadow in any, maybe at the very, very earliest dawn and the latest sunrise, but so it's not a situation where somebody's going to live in darkness because a house that is, 32 feet tall, 52 feet away. And you'll also notice it does not extend as far as the existing house already does. So we're not encroaching any more than the existing house already does. So it should be, in terms of those neighbors looking out, seeing trees and green space, and then a building behind those trees and green space will be their experience. And as I was surprised when Brent told me that his setback requirement is 0 on this site. I was surprised to hear that, but we did not go to, we didn't want to use that space because the trees, existing tree canopy, and those kind of things are part of the reason people want to live here. So it's just not a case where we're just flattening the site and turning it all into parking and buildings. And the other thing that you probably said at the meeting, I wasn't here, is that there seems to be a bargain here where there's an existing eyesore, dangerous building that hasn't been anything but that for a very, very long time, and somebody's going to come in and spend far more than it would cost to build that building from scratch And the one way that that can be done is if a new building is allowed to be there that really helps subsidize that building. So if it's a case where the existing building, it's going to be demolition by neglect if we don't do anything. And so I think people were pretty consistent that they appreciated the house being fixed up, the existing house being fixed up. And I've seen the plans for that, and it's very high quality materials. And I think part of, if in an area like this, if you want the existing house to be restored past its economic value, part of the deal is that their new development be allowed to happen. And I can also say that and this is speaking as an architect, but I think without fear of contradiction, the one-story cottage that you passed that they described as Craftsman, which was not Craftsman, it was a ranch house. So one-story ranch house that you all passed without any really discussion at all was far less detailed, far less architectural character than the existing house or the new thing we're proposing. So if we're just talking about in terms of increasing the character and quality of the neighborhood, you're going to get two new good buildings in this area. One, an old building that'll be restored to new, down to the studs, new wiring, new plumbing, new roof. It'll have another 100 years in it. And then the building that we're designing will also last for 100 years. So you're getting, when you look at the entire package, you're getting something very nice for the city. And that is something I think maybe Brent's too modest to talk about, is like, he's being a good citizen, fixing up the existing house. And so this is part of the whole, he's repairing the whole block. So thank you.
So recognizing that landscaping and the screening between the neighbors was a question that was raised, but then also thinking about parking, I would like to express my appreciation for your willingness to go above and beyond on the requirements for landscaping. If that's something that's proposed, assuming it could be articulated. As for parking, is there a path to add additional parking, or are you kind of at your limit as it relates to the site orientation and how it's proposed?
Yeah, and I believe it's in Tara's report as well. We have maximized the number of parking spaces that we can get on this.
Okay. I thought I'd remember that, but I wanted to make sure to ask. Other questions for the applicant or comments within the commission? So we have before us some conditions that have been proposed. We have the opportunity to increase, for instance, on the landscaping as has been discussed. But then from there, I mean, we have the opportunity to vote for or against. It's really just up to you all on how we proceed next steps. As they're gathering their thoughts, I do want to take this opportunity to thank the folks that have shown up to the meeting on both sides of this issue. It does speak to the dedication and the importance of the community to our residents. But then in addition to the folks that spoke here, the number of people that sent in letters for us to review and additional information that is very much appreciated. Again, it underscores the passion that you all have for the community. So thank you for that. It's about as much time as I can buy y'all. I'm long-winded, but I don't think they want to hear any more from me than what they need to.
I make a motion that we approve the project with the conditions stated, in addition to the requirement that additional landscaping be provided along the residential west property line. I think you said you could double it. I will throw that in there because it was your words, not mine. Double the requirement that site development review pay close attention to mitigation of.
The addition of the requirement that additional landscaping be added to
west property line. And knowing that and this is not a condition, this is just me saying words, that the site development review will mitigate not only stormwater runoff and trash receptacles, but parking screening and things like that. So So motioned.
So there's a motion. Is there a second? Hearing none, that motion is going to fail.
I motion to reject the proposal on the grounds that I do not believe that it conforms to the essence, vibe, everything else kind of the historic district. From a non-builder, non-architect, Josh Hamilton perspective, I think that it would stick out in not necessarily an ugly way or anything like that. I just think that it would stick out as new construction. And I think that you'd be able to tell that, I was walking down the road earlier, or I guess towards the end of last week, just kind of preparing for this. And I think the visual put it pretty well in place that if that build was placed there, in my opinion, my humble opinion, it doesn't fit.
Is that all in your motion or?
Oh, sorry.
Corey. But my question is, don't our motions have to be to the positive?
That's what I came
Yes.
here to say. As a
Yes.
point of order,
Yeah.
the motions need to be in the positive, and then you can vote them down, but they
Yeah.
do need to be in the positive.
So we would word that as,
Yes.
And then a yes vote passes it, a no vote defeats it.
so someone needs to motion to accept the proposal, and then people need to vote against it.
I'm not telling you how to vote. I'm just saying a yes,
No,
but yeah.
I'm
Yeah, it
asking
does
like-
have to be in the positive.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So Liz's motion to pass needs a second, and then you need to vote.
Well, no one's seconding that.
So,
Okay, so
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get the ball rolling. I move that we accept, feels weird okay, I move that we accept the recommendation of the group, of the planning commission.
Second.
Well, so I just want to clarify, when you say planning commission, so,
No, the planning.
yeah,
department.
so maybe if,
Department.
I would entertain a motion that speaks to accepting the proposal as presented by planning staff.
That's me. Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay,
So,
Then an aye with rejects the project and a nay.
no.
no, we'll do a roll.
No,
call.
Yeah.
an aye, so if you were voting for it, if it gets the yeses, then it passes. If it gets noes, then it fails.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded by Josh Hamilton.
All right, so all in favor?
We are voting to approve it.
Yes, because it has to be positive per Robert's Rules of Order.
Aye.
All right, so did you want to do roll call, Jenny?
Oh, we don't have to.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
It fails. So, Tara, I don't vote. Never vote. Oh. So can you speak to kind of next steps? Because I know that there's a course of action that the applicant can take.
Yes. So with the commissioners voting 4 against, 1 in favor of the motion, the applicant can appeal the decision of the HDC to planning staff, the planning staff member assigned to oversee HDC, which is me. In writing within 30 days, the applicant would need to provide new information for consideration that was not heard today or provided to staff prior to it being heard by HDC on this date. Then, based upon that information, I would, if I found that this was new information, would bring it back to the Historic District Commission for review. So it'd be the same project being reviewed, but with additional information. The applicant can do that appeal one time. If it, with that new information, was denied by the HDC, the next course of action for appeal would be for the applicant to appeal to the Circuit Court of Faulkner County. That is an excellent question. Oh, pardon me. So I misspoke. Thank you, Mary Ann, for asking that question. The applicant shall submit a new application for consideration. Appeals shall be subject to all applicable public notices, fees, and public hearings as the original submission. Yep.
So with that, we'll move to additional business. Anything else to discuss? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, second.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.